Dreamland with your Sensie Owl Bob here on the deck. The deck of possibilities. What's going on, kids? So, what do you think about America and the the orange guest host of the game show, The End of America? Economics don't look so good. Those tariffs, wee. And all those, Mark no face boy, micro Billy boy, penis, neon husk, all those clowns, all the cutouts, they're all building AI data centers, right? It's going to use up every bit of kilowatt electricity in America. Your electric bills are going to go through the roof, and the air pollution is going to be deadly. Why do you think I'm out in the woods? But even here, the smell is bad. It's unbelievable, right? So, but this ain't the first rodeo. This ain't the first time. And these clowns, they're moving. You can tell how that is scripted. Donnie doesn't know squat. He can barely stand up. He can barely breathe. He's been, transhumaned. Yeah, but he's like on his 16th persona. So, and remember, don't believe a word I say. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensie Owl Bob. My little box is, up to 50%, still plugged in. And so, I just plugged it in, and it's charged up, and, you need to subscribe. Hit that little bell so people will know you're there. The last show, wow, we got to over 1,000. That was kind of cool. Okay, so what else can I say? 2 minutes and 9 seconds into the show. Hear that? They're tearing the heck out of a mountaintop to put a golf course in. Someone asked in the other show, so how many, why aren't there any deer? Well, this is why. This was one of the last refuges for the animals. I used to have every kind of bird, every kind of everything. Are you St. Nook? No, I'm more like St. Jude or St. What's that guy? Saint Germain. Yeah, that was one of my nicknames. Saint Germain. Go look him up. Where am I? I'm in a undisclosed location that's in a magical, paranormal point of view, right? So, any of you guys know what the paranormal is? The thing that goes bump in the night, In my deep green, so I got the holler motif is you got the house from pre-revolutionary times, log house, and then you got the kind of 19 somewhere between the 1810 and 1912 house, and that's burnt down to the ground too, and then. And it's all got the meth motif, burnt from the center, real hot, then kind of dies out and leaves the edges. And then a couple of trailers, same thing, burnt out. And then garbage everywhere and beer cans everywhere. And the real pogey meaning poor folk, kind of motif is your driveway isn't made out of stone in case you can't afford that. So you throw your beer cans on what you want to be a driveway. You drive over it, and it's really pretty because the aluminum is very shiny, and the paint that they put on beer cans is Mylar, so it too is shiny. So it's like a diamond in a rough, right? And so that's the driveway. And what's always the cherry on top of it is the lawn is always meticulously mowed, right? So I have a similar aesthetic. I have a little cabin, but it's not burnt down. And it's stuff, I had about 12 houses and properties and all of that. And when I died and I came out the other side, and I kind of drew up my corporate consulting business and put a bow on it, and I went to Virginia. I basically sold everything. I sold all the stuff I had in Florida, sold most of the stuff I had. I kept the hill, and I kept the deep green. I sold everything else. And I put all that cash. I had been, I'm a person who basically spends my life helping other people, but I'm not bad at turning a coin. And so I took all that cash and I put it in the hands of all the different nonprofits that I helped put together. And I helped them, with a small group of people, we started them, like our housing authority in New York and other things like that in Ithaca and New York and other things in Virginia and Tennessee and Florida. And most of those were cultural entities, right? All nonprofits, all 501c3s. And a number of pieces of property I gave to groups of people who had a church but didn't have a place to have a church, right? Mostly black. And like in Bedford and Rustburg and in Lynchburg, these are all places I just handed the property over and, did it legally and got a nice tax write-up because I gave them, I bought them really super cheap. And then Jerry moved in those neighborhoods and jacked the price of real estate. I had a factory building I bought for $30,000 and sold it and gave it to that church. And they basically had another piece of property that they wanted to turn into a community because we started a 501c3. That was their church, but was community. And people were like basically in little trailers and little stuff like that. And I gave them that property and I sold it for a big chunk of change. And there were a lot of houses in Lynchburg that were in the nasty part of town. And I bought a bunch of them. And they were still in workable shape. But they were basically houses. They were like the first version of a tiny house, meaning in the 1930s, 20s, they invented a kind of, that Sears had a house that came in a kit. Sears also had a house that they would build and roll into your site. And you put it on a foundation and you could jack it up and put wheels underneath it and roll it to where, it was just the right size and everything that it could get someplace nice. So I bought a bunch of those. And GE also in the 50s did a similar thing. So I bought in Lynchburg, bought a bunch of those and again, turned it over to the church. And those properties that were in funk neighborhoods became, Lynchburg turned into the valuable place that, wasn't. And because of LU, and they sold all the properties and made another chunk of change and rolled all those little houses into their community and built a big church in the center of it and really had a self-sustained, it had their own farms, grew their own food, they had their own power, creating their own energy, and, and I did it as an example, I took cues from the work we did at Cooper Union in the 60s and 70s, and the stuff we did out in New Mexico with this Italian architect, where we came across a gigantic, pile of tires the size of New Jersey, and we had a backhoe, and we would dig out a hole, put the big tires for big tractors in a semicircle, and then fill it up with sand, and then put other tires on top of that, and other tires, and it would be like a Hopi rondelle, and have the front edge pointed towards the south, and it would catch the sun all day. And we built on the inside with logs, little apartments, and in the center, all winter long, you could grow food. Okay, so let's. Hope you didn't get any of that. You all left. Some of you are coming back, maybe. That was an important phone call, and I needed to take that. and I hope. Anyway, so anyway, what else can I say? So we are entering interesting times, right? So we're live. It's at 10 minutes and 22 seconds. Um, I'm gonna jack out of this and come back since nobody's here, right? So I'm coming right back, right? So coming right back.